Hello and welcome, and congratulations to those of you that took delivery of your new R1300 GS. Now, a couple of months ago, I did the review, the comparison between the 1250 and the 1300, and I really like the new 1300. I know that in terms of its design isn't to everyone's liking, especially that new headlight, but I actually think, especially in this trophy colorway, it looks really very good, especially up close and in person. Now, I'm sorry I've been a bit behind with my videos since that last video. The weather has been atrocious in Germany. We've had ice and snow pretty much constantly for the last 7 weeks, but things are clearing up and I am getting back out on the road, and so there is some more content coming. And talking of content, Weisertechnik. What we're going to focus on in this video is the EVO Extreme Indicators. So for those of you that follow the channel, there is a couple of videos about this product on my R1250 GS, and I've been really happy with them. If you've got questions, go to my channel. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of people that have now fitted these to their 1250s, and they're all really, I've not seen one bad comment about them. They really are super bright, and in terms of improving the functionality on the rear, they make a huge difference. So what this kit has inside it, in terms of what you get for value for money, there are two main things that it's going to do. It is going to improve visibility in terms of luminosity by a huge margin. Again, go and check out the comments from users on the channel. Don't take my word for it. They are really super bright compared to the standard indicators. So you get extra presence just from that. But importantly, on the rear, you also have a little tiny switch where you can decide which functions of those 3 multifunctions go on and take place within those indicators. And when you see the difference, it's really a game-changing experience on the rear of the bike. So people following you, your friends or other traffic users, really can clearly see when you put your indicator on that you mean to indicate and change lanes or change direction, which you can't do on the standard setup. Now, on the front of the bike, and I need to say, I would like to say thank you to BMW, because they have listened. They've listened to me and tens and thousands of people that complained about the amber running lights that used to be included on, if we look at the R1250, I'll put a picture up, the indicators had an amber running function, and it was really confusing. It was causing problems, accidents. People were pulling out in front of riders. I had people pull out in front of me that claimed I was indicating when I wasn't, because they could see these amber lights on my bike from the side. So when the Weiser kits came out, that really was a big improvement. So BMW, thank you very much, because you have listened to those of us that have been complaining, and back to your dealers, and you've now turned that off. We don't have that on the 1300, so that's a big improvement. But on the front of the bike, with the Weiser kits, what we can also do is increase the presence by adding a white DRL, a daylight running light, incorporated within the indicator. A lot of people buy additional spotlights for their motorbikes, and they don't take them off-road, they don't do night riding. What they actually want, what we really want as owners, is increased visibility, increased presence on the road, because these are big bikes, and when we're moving through traffic, we need people to see us, and we need to find a way to let people know that it is quite a big bike, because, you know, even with the slimmed down 1300, they're still big bikes. So what Weiser have done, incorporated within the indicator, is the bright white DRLs. So it provides a saving, because you then don't have to buy third-party spotlights to stick all over your front of your bike to increase the presence, because these things do it as part of the kit. Anyway, we'll get on and I'll show you what they're like. So we're going to start with the front of the bike. Bear in mind, this is a trophy version with the Enduro pack. Now, importantly, the Enduro pack gives you these inboard mounted indicators. And when you're speccing up your bike, when you're ordering it new, if you want your indicators on the inside underneath your fairing, you need to tick the box Enduro pack. Otherwise, they're going to end up on the handguards. Now, BMW have also done a great job, because they've made kits available so you can retrofit either way. So for those of you that got your bikes early, and most of them came with the indicators in the handguards, you can now buy a kit and retrofit it in here on the stalk assembly underneath the fairing. And also you can go the other way. So if you buy a bike perhaps in a year or a couple of years time, it's got inboard indicators, you spend all of your time on the road, you don't go off-road, then you might be tempted to move them from here off to the handguards, and there are kits to do it. All that we now have is on the front, if you've got the Enduro pack, your indicators are mounted underneath the fairing, underneath the screen. We've just got indicators performing one function, which for me is brilliant. But what we're going to do with the Weiser-Technik EVO kits, because on the front with this new headlight design, it looks quite nice when you're standing looking at it in the showroom or in your garage, but out on the road the presence really isn't there. It's not as bright as the old LED headlight on the 1250. By quite a margin. So with these Weiser indicator upgrades we're going to fit, we're going to add bright white DRLs to those indicators, so that then you've got two functions on the front. We've got bright white DRLs that can't be confused as indicators, and then when you put the indicator on, the light goes out, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. So these are the EVO Extreme indicators installed on the front of the R1300 GS. We'll turn the ignition on in a moment so you can have a look. Bear in mind with regards to the options from Weiser-Technik, there are 3 lengths of stalk. So you can have these moved further inwards. These are the middle version, and then there are the stalks that come out even further. I think in North America you are legally required to have the ones that moves the indicators further out, but you can check that on the Weiser-Technik website. I've gone for the middle ones. I think the short ones are too short with the front of the new 1300, so that's why I've gone with the middle. And then, as you can see on here, these are the mid tint. There is clear, mid, and what Weiser calls stealth. I tried the stealth ones first of all. They look great actually, and I think with a triple black, the triple black version, I think that would be the lens colour to go for. But for the trophy and the base white one and probably the green one, I think that the mid tint is what I would go for. So now you know about the options. Let's turn the ignition on so that you can see what it looks like. And of course, if you've ever done this with the key, you know you have to move the key in and out. So ignition on, let's have a look. So we've still got the familiar BMW startup sequence, and then we have these fabulous DRLs. So if we go back and have a look at what the standard R1300 looked like, they were just indicators. So when they're not functioning as an indicator, they won't do anything else. But with the Weiser ones, we now have these super bright DRLs. The center one doesn't look quite as bright as this, but when we start the bike up, they are matched in color. I checked in the car park and they look really very, very good. And then when we put the indicator on, the good thing is that white DRL goes out, and it just leaves us with an indicator performing its primary function, indicating. And I'll put the other side on as well so you can have a look. So the front of the bike, when we're not indicating, is only white. So there is no confusion. Any oncoming traffic or traffic approaching us only see white light on the front of our bikes. There can be no confusion, and then the only thing that happens if we start to indicate, one light goes out, which then makes it even more obvious that their indicator is actually flashing, and it is nice and super bright. So I think what we'll do now, we'll put the rear kits on and we'll have a look at the rear. So before we fit the EVO Extreme indicators, which physically replace the BMW ones, let's just have a look at the standard system so we understand the problem and what we're trying to resolve and improve. So the first thing is the tail light. The tail light's gone. BMW, please bring it back. It really isn't acceptable to remove it. It is an important part of our motorbikes, so that traffic users behind can see us braking nice and clear with a nice big brake light, and ideally we want our tail light back in there. To move all 3 functions into these little tiny indicators is just not good enough, and as we're about to see, it is really confusing, and traffic users behind can't see what's going on. Now, I don't point the blame completely at BMW, because the bureaucrats have approved this, which I can't believe they're actually motorcyclists or they have any clue how a motorcycle works, because if they did, they wouldn't approve utter nonsense like this. To have all 3 functions inside this tiny indicator is really confusing. if you look on the back of modern cars, there are a huge array, a huge amount of lights, tail lights, brake lights, fog lights, reversing lights. There's all kinds of lights. I mean, some cars have got as many as 12 lights on the back of their cars. And on the motorbikes, we're only allowed 2 tail lights. It's just ridiculous. So can we please have some new laws to give us improved visibility from the rear of our motorbikes? Anyway, let me carry on. I won't talk about that anymore. So the Weisertechnik EVO Extreme Indicators, they are definitely going to help. They're physically bigger. They have a greater luminosity to the rear. They separate some of those functions out. And in fact, let me just show you what the standard setup looks like before we do any more. So this is standard BMW. This is tail light illumination on both sides. Then we can add in the brake light. So far, I've got no complaints. Tail light, brake light, all looks okay, although a little bit small. But the problem really occurs when we add in the indicator. So we've currently got tail light and indicator. Then we add in the brake light on top. So we've got 3 functions taking place in there. And if I was slowing down in traffic and I'm putting my brake light on and off, slowing down, it's really confusing. Can you work out what's going on inside there with that indicator and the brake light? What we really want to do, and what these EVO Extreme indicators are going to do, they're going to turn off all other functions from the indicator and just leave us the indicator going. But not this little tiny one. It'll then be the whole great big thing with a nice big bright flash, letting traffic users behind know we're about to make a direction change. Anyway, you'll see that in a moment. Now, as regards to these indicators, this is where the real big improvement is. The indicators themselves are physically larger, both in height and width, than the BMW system. And because they use the Osram super bright LEDs, they really are. And it is really difficult to film this. They are so much brighter than the standard rear lights. And as we saw from earlier on, I don't know if that came across in the video when we had one of the BMW ones on and a Weiser one, you could see the difference. But out, if you park it in the car park in daylight, it's really obvious. And at night, oh my goodness, it is a completely different experience. It's like a completely different technology going on with the rear lights. But importantly, at this point in time, we have our side lights, our brake lights, side lights, brake lights. Exactly the same as the BMW system. But the clever bit takes place when we put in the indicator. Because with the visor modules, they turn off all other functions apart from the indicator. So when we add in, if I cover that up and we look over there, we've got side light, brake light. But over here in the indicator, when we add the brake light, there's nothing else going on. It is totally clear to traffic users behind exactly what our intentions are, and we're about to make a direction change. Now on the standard BMW system, it is really confusing for traffic users and your friends, and I know there's been accidents and problems with 2 or 3 guys out moving through the city and then people braking and indicating at the same time, and people behind just can't make out what the heck's going on with these multi-dysfunction indicators from BMW. So this is the way to go. Clean it up, fit these, they're nice and bright. There are 2 other things. If you go back and watch the first video I did about the introduction of the BMW ones, you'll notice that the indicator part of the lens is just a little tiny spot on the inside, not on the outside. I don't know why they would put it on the inside, but it's a small part of an indicator. So even when you use the Weiser-Technik Wizard modules, which there is a video for that too, if you want a simple, cost-effective way to improve the stock system, it does improve it, it does make it clearer, but you're left with just a little tiny indicator. Whereas the Weiser system, because they've got more space, they can put more Osram super bright LEDs, so that whether you're doing indicating, braking or tail light, you've got a lot of visual presence within this tail unit up here. One more thing before we finish. Inside you have a switch. You can choose option A or option B. So you can add back in, if you wish to, a tail light function within this unit. So in other words, you would have the tail light on in the background while the indicator's flashing. I much prefer to have it in this option. This is my preferred way, and on my R1250 GS, this is how I ride. Nice and clear. One more time, brake light on, over the other side, brake, over here. No confusion. All it's doing is its primary function of indicating and letting traffic know behind you're about to change direction. So I think that's it for the moment. We'll carry on and let's move on to the next section. So this next section is actually quite important because it's going to help you make the right purchasing decision, because there are several products from the Weiser-Technik range that you can fit on these different motorbikes. And I'd just like to explain what these differences are. But first, what we need to go over again so that everybody understands is that there are two versions of the GS. You would think that there's just one motorbike and it's sold globally throughout the world, but that's not the case. So over here, we have what is referred to as the global motorbike. This is the first version that was initially sold in Europe, United Kingdom, Australia, Tasmania, Norway, in fact, everywhere in the world apart from North America. These were the first bikes to come. Now, Weiser-Technik have a range of products for these motorbikes. They've been out since October 2023. The first one is the Wizard modules. This video here. The Wizard modules retain the original European BMW indicators on the rear, but they improve the performance and the function of those lights to make it much easier to see when you're braking and you're indicating. And there are three versions. There's a base version, and then there are two versions whereby you can add in additional tail light. Bear in mind, BMW have removed the big fat tail lamp assembly from all regions for the new 1300 GS and the Adventure. So it's quite probable that you're going to want to add in an additional tail light. So those two other versions, one just adds a brake light and one version adds a tail light and a brake light, or the Americans would call it a running light and a brake light. So they're the Wizard modules. Then of course we've got the products I've just shown you in this video, which are the EVO Extreme Indicators. These physically replace the indicators on the rear, the indicators on the front, and with those front changes you get those bright white DRLs on the front, and they really are super bright. And we also mustn't forget that the EVO Extreme Indicators, they're physically longer and taller than the BMW ones. They use Osram super bright LEDs, and they have much more luminosity, much more brightness than the standard BMW system. Now, if you want to fit a tail light, an additional tail light and brake light to your R1300, then what you have to do is use the Wizard modules. But you can, of course, if you wish to, you can mix and match some of the products. So the front of what I've just shown you today, the EVO Extreme Indicators, if you've installed the Wizard modules on the rear of your bike, you can of course add those super bright white DRLs to the front as well to match. Now that's what you can do with what we refer to as the global motorbike. So now I need to move over to North America because they've got some interesting products coming. So currently it is March of 2025. What you have is you can fit the super bright DRLs from the front, what I've just shown you in this video. You can install them today on your GS and your GS Adventure, but you can't install the rear at the moment, and that's because the CAN bus controls, the coding, the signals that go to your indicators, also bear in mind the indicators are physically different. The European bikes have a completely different indicator to the North American market. They're not compatible, you can't swap them over, and the CAN bus controls are very different. Now, Weiser-Technik, as you're probably aware, is an Anglo-American company. They've got facilities in the US and they've got facilities in the UK, and between the two locations they do their development and their testing. So because the European bike was the first bike to be launched in October of 2023, they focused on the European market first. But now, because the bikes are now available in North America, they're developing a range of products for the North American bikes. So what's coming? Well, there is a new product. Unfortunately, Weiser don't want me to show you any pictures of it at the moment. It's a new product that will enable you to fit the front and rear EVO Extreme Indicators that I've just demonstrated in this video. You can install those on your North American bikes. But also what's going to be very interesting, because of the way that Weiser-Technik do their coding and their programming within this new module that's coming, you will also be able to choose the European indicators. So that's the indicators on the rear and the indicators on the front. So for North America, you will have 3 options. You will have the indicators that come standard fitted to your motorbikes. You will have the EVO Extreme indicators we've just demonstrated in this video, and you can also fit, should you wish to, the European indicators. Now, there is one additional thing. This new product will also enable you to add that additional tail light and brake light, and it's going to be fully compatible. You'll be able to use Clearwater Billy brake lights or Denali brake lights, and you'll be able to add them to your GS or your GS Adventure. Now, in terms of time frame, as I just mentioned, we're in March. I have seen the product. I've done some testing with it. I really like it, and it is the product that's going to be first launched for the North American market. That will eventually come to the European market later in the year, and I think it's going to be a product that a lot of us are going to enjoy, because there are some additional features which I can't tell you about at the moment. It's going to be very interesting, but that is coming very soon. And in terms of time frame, I would think that the new product for North America is only going to be about 6 to 8 weeks before it's launched. So by summer, you will have that version too. So just to re-clarify this, for North American market, as of today, you can install the EVO Extreme indicators on the front to give you those super bright DRLs on the front. And there is a new product coming later in the year that will enable you to do a lot more and fit different types of indicator. For the European market, which we call the global motorbike, you already have all the options that are coming from Weiser-Technik. You can mix and match wizard modules on the rear with DRLs on the front, or you can fit the EVO Extreme kits. So there is a lot to choose from. Anyway, let's move on. So now you have a very clear understanding what your EVO Extreme indicator kits are going to do for you and your R1300 GS. On the front of the bike, you've gained super bright DRLs that are matched to the color of the central DRL of the motorbike, and you've now got improved visibility in terms of super bright indicators. You've got a choice of stalks, a choice of lenses, so you can make them look and match your bike how you wish. And then on the rear of the bike, you've got the ability to separate out some of those confusing multifunction indicator functions. So within the kit, you've got 2 options, option A, option B. My preferred option is to have the indicator working by itself without any other lights going on in the background, because then anyone that's following me or traffic approaching from behind, it is really clear what my intentions are. I've got the brakes on, the side lights are on, that's all taken care of by the other lighting systems, but the indicator, importantly, is letting traffic know exactly which direction I'm going to be traveling. So that's my preference, but you do have 2 options. And again, same as the front really, they are just super bright. They're much brighter than the BMW system. Thank you for your time. I'll see you very soon, probably next week, with the install guide for this kit on this bike. Show you how to do it. Thank you for your time. See you soon.